I'm Julian Assange.
Roger, I'll get you in constraint.
Editor of WikiLeaks. We've exposed the world's secrets.
These documents belong to the United States government.
Been attacked by the powerful.
The United States strongly condemns.
Hey, quit asking questions.
He broke the law.
Illegally shoot the son of a...
For 500 days now, I've been detained without charge. But that hasn't stopped us. Today, we're on a quest for revolutionary ideas that can change the world tomorrow.
What you're saying is that money and money-making is at the center of modern war, and it's almost self-perpetuating.
Yes, and it's becoming worse. The number of private companies that sprung up around Iraq, the number of private companies that are now supporting the National Security Agency, this has increased 100 times in the past 10 years, the number of companies. So now you have a school, a feeding school that is feeding off the US tax base and is a lobby to make sure that those wars go on.
Let me know when you gather. Or shoot. Light them all up.
202 traffic, 260.
Come on, fire. Hey, Roger. Keep shoot. Break. Crazy Horse 1A, request permission to engage. I'm picking up the wounded. Yeah, we're trying to get permission to engage. 1A, engage. Clear. Come on. Clear. Clear. Warren, coming around clear. Roger.
When you first saw the Apache video that is now infamous.
When I first saw this, we didn't know that there were journalists in it. We didn't know who they were. We didn't know the circumstances. We knew this was a tape of a helicopter attack, and otherwise nothing. So I could immediately see that this was a visceral attack on people walking in a street in a relaxed manner. But I didn't know, were they armed? Were they really the bad guys? They seemed incredibly relaxed. It seemed like this was an attack that was very provocative. So if these people were insurgents, then they were insurgents having a break playing on the street in a suburb. But as we dug deeper and deeper, the situation became more and more appalling. So we found that clearly nearly all of these people were not armed. Clearly there were two cameramen there holding cameras, not arms. These cameramen turned out to be Reuters news reporters. Then looking at this wounded man crawling on the curb, we could, spending more time in the detail, it was clear that there was no arms being picked up, that he was just being rescued by a passerby.
Could you hear the voices? Could you hear the voices from the helicopter at this point?
Yeah, we could hear the voices from the helicopter, and sort of the grotesque language that soldiers have. What really struck me was not this very dark, grotesque humour. I can accept that people exercise black humour, very black humour sometimes in war. Rather, it was another day at the office feel to
routine.
All the proceedings, how routine it was to kill these 18 to 26 people, and that a whole street covered with bodies, the reaction to that was nice. This tape, for me and the other people involved, made nice a dirty word. So we just couldn't see something as being nice anymore when a whole street covered with carnage is nice.
Ethan McCord, who claimed to be a soldier on the scene.
I was dismounted that day, so I was one of the first 6 soldiers to walk up onto that courtyard. When I went around to the passenger side of the van, the soldier that I was with, who I had trained with, he was in my squad, he looked inside with me, turned around, started puking, and ran away. He didn't want to have anything to do with that part of what he saw inside with the children.
It's very much a one-character film. He started out as patriotically wanting to do right by his country, did what his country told him to do, and he found himself completely disillusioned and at odds with what the mission was.
When I first pulled the girl out and I had her in my arms, cradling her, it's kind of weird to explain it, but I almost felt as if I was holding my own child.
That gets to him. He asks to see mental health, and he's extremely discouraged and even ridiculed.
You just blow up at the smallest things. You can't control your anger.
There's this honesty in terms of the way he's presenting himself. I think that's a way in to people. To get them to hear things that are difficult is to have it be told by someone who has a lot of authority and integrity.
Talk about that the one soldier who, his name was McCord, is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
One of the soldiers on the ground who was one of those you see arriving at the van.
Ethan McCord.
Ethan McCord.
Is a soldier about 30 years old, was in the ground unit that was being serviced, if you like, by the Apaches in the sky. And they marched in and arrived to where the bodies were in the shooting up van. And Ethan heard the child crying in the van hysterically and pulled out the girl, saw the boy and thought the boy was dead. Took the child away from the van to a sort of intermediary location, and then went to look for anyone else in the van and just saw the boy was just breathing and pulled him out. So he ended up being covered with the blood of his children, and he was quite disturbed by this event, and he got in contact with us immediately after the video was published, and he produced a statement of a letter of apology to this family. Of course, he wasn't involved directly with killing them, but indirectly. It was his unit that was being serviced by this Apache, and indirectly that he was part of the U.S. Army in Iraq. But he says that that he complained to his superiors about this event, and they just told him to stop being a pussy and to suck it up. And he's tried quite hard to draw attention to what happened in the mainstream, to get the mainstream press interested in it. Within 2 days of us revealing the material, so why it was still newsworthy. So there can't be any excuse in the US press to, well, the moment had passed, and therefore, okay, yes, his story is interesting, but the moment has passed, because at the very same time that he was trying to get his story across, editorial space was being given to military apologists who were just, war is hard and it's difficult.
These things happen.
These things happen.
And you didn't show the full context, and
That's right.
they were shooting that morning,
Yep.
so on and so on.
Yeah. And, soldiers, it's difficult for soldiers, psychological, whatever. Not new facts. Whereas this soldier had new facts.